Hello, fabulous entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Today is episode number 148, and all the show notes are over at tashcorbin.com/148. Now, today we're talking about something really exciting for me. It's something that I have presented about at conferences. It's one of my keynote speeches that I give, and I'm going to get a little bit more practical today. I'm talking about selling, and in particular, the difference between masculine-oriented sales and feminine-oriented sales. Curious? Well, let's get started. Now, I'm going to be a little bit controversial here and say that a lot of men actually deny that this is true, and a lot of women try to ignore that this is true. But the way that men and women sell is actually quite different, and our levels of comfort with different types of sales strategies are also quite different. If you think about how a man sells something, he will just say, "Hey, I've got this awesome thing. Here's why you should buy it. You definitely need it. Here, buy it." You buy it, you take some money, off you go, that's it, it's done. If you think about when you as a woman have tried to sell something online, I don't know how many times I've had women say to me, "Oh, look, I was going to join a launch. I was going to get it out there. I was going to start selling it, but I just worry that this isn't good enough or that isn't good enough." And then even when they do make the sales, they're like, "Oh, did they like it? I don't know if they love it. Maybe I should offer them a partial refund. Oh, have I done it 100% perfectly?" Now, I'm not here to debate why men and women sell differently and who's better and any of those sorts of things, but I just want us to acknowledge that there is a fundamental difference. And that fundamental difference can therefore impact the way that we show up in our businesses. I've seen this actually reflected really beautifully and demonstrated super clearly in a number of different Facebook groups. I belong to some Facebook groups that are all women and some that are a mix of women and men. In the groups that are a mix of women and men, even the women answer the questions that I ask about sales very differently. And an example of this is I went into a range of groups and I asked a question about course completion rates. Do you pay attention to course completion rates? How do you increase your course completion rates? What are your concerns about people not completing your online courses and programs? And in the groups where it was just women, all of the answers were, it is a big priority for me. I focus on it. I ask people lots of questions about where they get stuck. I spend a bit of time each month doing live support to help people get over their barriers. All these sorts of things were being discussed. Those answers did not appear in groups where it was men and women combined. I had a number of men say to me, "It's none of your business whether people finish your course. Your job is to create a great course, get out there and sell it, and that is it. As long as people have access to the materials, it's not your job to make sure they finish it." And I don't have to tell you, I was a little bit cranky with those responses, but it was really good for me to get fired up about it because I completely disagree. And I think that this is the difference between masculine and feminine sales and business. So I believe that we are a combination of masculine energy and feminine energy. And I truly do believe that we can bring different levels of masculine and feminine energy to the fore when we are running our businesses. And if you're completely dominated by masculine energy, then some of these sales traits may start to appear. I had women in that mixed group telling me that if you create a quality course, the completion rates will take care of itself. There's always going to be a large percentage of people who never do the program, but as long as you focus on selling it to as many people as possible, then you can impact more and more lives. So even though there was this thing about wanting people to get the results, it was like, but it's not really your job. Whereas in the groups that were completely women only, there was a completely different energy to the answer. So what I wanted to do today was to actually look into the masculine and feminine sales approach and marketing approaches and how you might like to dial up the feminine approach to your sales and marketing. Because what I am starting to see is that more and more women who embrace the feminine style of marketing sales are actually getting better results. Because if you think about that, like, sell and run mentality and that way of creating and selling courses or programs or your services, then chances are you're going to feel like it's a little bit of out of alignment for you. And I definitely feel that way. I've done the PLF style launches before, and I got to tell you, it felt horrible. I cut it out halfway. I was like, I can't do this anymore, because it was just like sort of giving the answer, but then making people jump through another hoop, and sort of people giving the answer and then making them jump through another hoop. Now, I'm sure if I had seen that through, I would have made plenty of sales. It would have created great results, but it felt so out of alignment for me that I just couldn't see it through. And instead of trying to force myself to sell more like a man or dial up that masculine energy, I decided there surely is a way for us to do this successfully without getting out of alignment from our masculine and feminine balance. And so that's what I've been dedicating myself to when looking at how I teach launching, how I launch myself, and the strategies that actually work for me. And what I'm finding is the more that I dive into and dial up the feminine side of my marketing strategies, the more sales I'm making in my launches, and the less I'm getting refund requests, the more my business is starting to get momentum of its own and start to go a little bit viral. I really feel like it's created significant change for me. I've always tipped more to the feminine energy in my business, I must say, but the more I learn about strategies that are aligned to the feminine energy, the more I can do this stuff, the more successful my business is becoming. So I wanted to share some of that with you today. For me, the point of this is not to tell you to sell more like a man, right? That's the whole point of this. And that's what a lot of sales and marketing coaches out there will be saying to you is, well, you just need to get over it because you're not going to be successful otherwise. Or you just need to outsource it as much as possible so that you don't get freaked out by it. And then that way it will actually work for you. To be 100% honest with you, that's not how I want to show up in my business, so I don't expect you to do that either. So this might be very different to some of the advice that you get about how to make great sales and how to market yourself. But honestly, the more I do it, the more it's working. And I would love for you to feel that aligned and see the results from this as well. I've actually seen a lot of big name women out there start to have this realization in their businesses. I've seen posts by some very popular women in the online business world who are saying, you know what, last year my sales strategy got a little masculine, it got a little pushy, and I didn't really enjoy it as much. I've even seen women close down their businesses because they got so deep into the masculine side of their sales, it feels completely out of alignment for them, and they don't even know how they can come back from it. So it's really fascinating for me to see this and observe this from the outside in the online business world, and I'm really excited to share some of these strategies with you as well. So, number one, the principle is to align more to the feminine energy, not necessarily get rid of all the masculine energy. As I said earlier, I believe that we are a balance, and it's about finding what feels really aligned for you. A great example of the difference between marketing strategies, if you're in the feminine aligned or the masculine aligned, is this principle of admiration marketing. So you may have heard me talk about before KLT or KLTC. So KLT is a very well-known marketing term for how much people know, like, and trust you. So KLT, when you're building up a relationship with potential clients, you want to build this KLT factor, the extent to which they know you, like you, and trust you. In a masculine-oriented marketing approach, then it would be KLTA. So not only are you building up that KLT, but you also want people to admire you. The I'll have what she's having effect. Standing on the fancy yacht, wearing your beautiful Prada clothes, having a photo in front of Ferraris. If you think about the way that men bond, it's over their toys and their accomplishments. It's, that like, oh, look at me, I got this new amazing thing. Let's all go out and check it out. Oh, I got, I hit a hole in one the other day. It's talking up your accomplishments, and it's creating that admiration factor. If guys admire each other, they connect with each other. On the feminine side, if you think about how women connect and how they bond, it's based on that connection and vulnerability. You know, I don't know any men who talk about like calorie counting or I've gone up another size in my pants. You know, women talk about this stuff and we bond over it. We talk about periods and nipple chafing and all sorts of things. We connect over our humanness. So for the feminine side of the marketing, I talk about KLTC, the extent to people know, like, and trust you and feel connected to you. So they have the same fears as you, the same vulnerabilities as you. They feel like they really know you and they could reach out and ask you a question. We love feeling really connected to those people who we admire and those people who we love, but through a different lens. Think about how much celebrity magazines fly off the shelves when the cover is celebrities without makeup or that big thing that person stuffed up, right? We grab those off the shelf because we want to know that the people that we admire are human. That's really what we love. So in your marketing, it is actually a beautiful permission slip to be yourself. I do Facebook Lives without wearing makeup and without doing my hair and being fancy. I have turned up to live support calls for my peeps in my programs, like fresh out of bed, just chuck a hoodie on. When I lived in in Bali, I was constantly just sweat. There was no point in wearing any makeup. So for a year and 5 months, pretty much makeup free everywhere. And you know what? It actually created a deeper sense of connection with my community. It also comes into play in the sales process. So if you think about when you purchase a course or program, if we're aligned to the masculine style of marketing, it's that kind of drip feed teaser kind of thing. You're making people jump through hoops. You're making them prove that they want it bad enough. You're creating that FOMO factor. You're making people feel that they won't succeed without it. In the feminine model of marketing and selling courses in particular, I talk about empowering people to make a smart decision for themselves. So it's not about convincing people that they need this thing. It's empowering people to make the right decision. Now, that takes a lot of faith that your stuff is amazing and that it will help people. But if you think about it, at the end of the day, if you're trying to convince people to buy something that they don't really need, how aligned to that are you going to feel? How much are you going to sabotage that? Now, one of the lovely ladies that I love to follow talking about money mindset is Denise Duffield-Thomas. And she talks about when she goes to networking events or she goes to conferences, when she says to people, when they say, you know, what do you do? She says, I help women to overcome their money blocks. Men will 9 times out of 10 to her say, what does that mean? Or she'll say, you know, self-sabotage and you know, money confidence, that kind of thing. They're like, what do you mean? They don't even understand what a money block is because it's not as big of a thing. For us, we really do, and particularly where your feminine energy is dialed up, you want to hang around when you deliver a course or program. You want to empower people to make great decisions. And if you're not feeling aligned to that, blocks, money blocks. You'll actually stop the income coming in, or you'll get lots of refund requests because you're actually like energetically repelling the sales and repelling the money because it's feeling out of alignment. So what I recommend that you do is align to that feminine energy and think about up front, what is the sales process or the experience that you really want to create for your customers, and how can you make that feel more connected, more real, make yourself feel a bit more human, give yourself permission to be vulnerable, to be flawed, to be imperfect through that process, and how can you empower people to make the right decision rather than trying to convince as many people as possible to make the one decision. So these are the 4 things that I recommend. Number 1 is to be human. Number 2 is to feel like and have the mindset that you're here to contribute to the conversation. If you think about masculine business models, it's let's all climb over each other to get to the top of the pyramid. You want to be the best such and such, the best business coach, the best marketing strategist, the best health coach, the best boot camp facilitator, the best yoga instructor, whatever it is. It's this pyramid style of business, and everyone's trying to climb over each other to be the best and to be at the top. In the feminine style of marketing sales, we're all sitting around in a circle and we're all contributing to the conversation. So my goal is not to be the best or the most successful business coach in the whole entire world. My goal is actually to fill the Forbes 500 list with all of my clients, and let's all be successful together. I don't need to shout over someone. I don't need to be better than someone. I just want to contribute to this conversation. I want women in the online business world to feel like they can do this without having to act more like a man. They can be successful using feminine strategies and aligning their business to their natural strengths and talents. And in order for me to be successful, I don't need other people to be silenced. We are all contributing to this conversation, particularly other female business coaches who are all singing from the same song sheet. The more of us that are out there talking about our way of doing things, the less women are starting to feel like, oh, I can't succeed unless I act more like a man. So I don't want to be the number one in my industry. I just want to contribute to the conversation. It takes a lot of pressure off again. It makes me feel really comfortable to promote the work of my competitors because not everyone can afford to pay $14.95 an hour to work with me as a one-on-one business coach. So I actually have a suite of business coaches that are very active in my community and that I support. And I actually, if someone's saying, I'm looking for a business coach, I'll say, what do you need? And then I'll recommend 3 or 4 women out of the lady posse. In the feminine model of business, we're not competitors. We're actually each other's supporters. A rising tide lifts all ships. In the masculine model of business, that just doesn't happen. And you may have seen this if you've joined, say you're a health coach and you join a male health coach's Facebook community. You are not able to be a contributor to that conversation. It's that person show. Generally, I've seen that's happened for me. As a business coach in particular, I've joined, business coaching groups or entrepreneurial Facebook groups where if you're a business coach, you don't get a voice. If you are a health coach, you can promote yourself, go crazy. But if you do something similar to me, you're not allowed to have a place in this conversation, except if you want to ask me advice and put yourself down below me. It's this above and below type of relationship. So think about how you can embrace that, being a contributor to the conversation rather than necessarily needing to be the most successful in your field or industry. To me, it makes life easier. I actually feel like this is a better way of being. It's easier for me. It's not as pressured. I get to enjoy myself. I can have fun, and I have a network of my peers and colleagues who I can recommend when maybe I'm not the best option for them moving forward. I even know other business coaches who charge the same, if not more than me, and I still refer other people to those coaches because maybe it's not the right alignment. So people often come to me, they don't need me, they need someone who's Facebook ads specific. Well, I know that I can recommend this person, this person, this person for you. Maybe they come to me and they are a health coach, for example, and there's actually something else that would be much more effective for them for where they're at in their stage of business. I know people who specialize in business coaching for health coaches. So I'm going to send them to that person if it's not the right fit for me. So, I think that in a feminine aligned model of business, this actually is normal, and we get to be a contributor to the conversation, not have to be the best in the industry. Number 3 is sticking around. Now, I think this is a big difference between masculine and feminine sales. So for me, I tried the whole passive income thing. My first passive income product was the 2015 Heart and Soul Planner for Entrepreneurs. It might have been 2014. No, I think it was 2015 Heart and Soul Planner for Entrepreneurs. And it was a passive income product. It was $19.95. I sold about 70 copies, and I reckon I would have emailed 40 people asking them what they thought about it and how it was going. And for me, this was just a huge wake-up point. I was like, I don't want to just sell something to someone and hope for the best for them and just send them off to do it on their own. For me, I want to stay connected in delivery. So nowadays, when I sell my planners, it comes with workshops so that we can go through and fill in the planner together. I can answer any of your questions. We can talk about how to make sure that you actually implement the plan this time instead of it just sitting on a shelf and gathering dust. And it's made a huge difference to the results that people have got, therefore how much they recommend it to everyone. And I make more sales of that planner every year without doing any different marketing or any more marketing of it. It's a very simple rollout. It's getting a lot of momentum because I stick around in the delivery, and that's usually where other people find that planners don't work for them. It sits on a shelf and it doesn't actually do anything. So have a think about when you're selling your courses or your programs. I know that the idea of passive income sounds really sexy. You sit on the beach and sip cocktails and never talk to your customers again. But for most of us, that actually is a nightmare because we want to stay connected to our tribe. Connection is one of our highest values. We want to make sure that our thing is actually getting results for people. We want to be there and support people if they get stuck with something. So it's about creating structure to that so you don't feel like you're drawn into then delivering one-to-one support for people who've purchased a $19.95 product. Or, if you're creating a short course, you don't want to feel like you're tied to those people forever and you're answering questions for free 2 years later down the track. No one's actually moving on. There's a balance between staying around and connected in delivery and having great boundaries, but that doesn't mean everything needs to be passive. So, I've talked previously in other episodes of this podcast about the fact that I'm now under 15 hours a week working. But if you talk to any of the students of my courses and programs, I am there for them. And they feel like I'm there, I'm supporting them, I'm answering their questions. They get so much support from me in those courses and programs, but I'm able to maintain that boundary and I'm only working 15 hours a week. And that includes doing my marketing, my admin behind the scenes, and delivering with my clients. So it doesn't mean that you have to be available 24/7. It doesn't mean that you have to, work 70 hours a week so that you're always answering everyone's questions, but have a think about how you can stay around longer in the delivery of your courses and programs. And then point number 4 is how can you empower people through the sales process rather than push them through the sales process. So, when I am advertising something, I'm very upfront about the price. I don't make people jump through hoops in order to hear the price. I've listened to sales videos from dudes before where there's no timer on the video. They've just got it embedded in this special way. You can't fast forward, you can't pause. And the first thing that they say in that video is, now I'm not going to tell you how to buy this or the price until minute 23 of this video. So you're going to have to stick around and watch it. Now, I don't know about you, but the first thing I did was turn it off because we don't like to feel like we're being manipulated. And we don't like to feel like we're being led in a specific way without choice and empowerment. And I know for myself, even with marketing videos from women who are more aligned to their masculine energy, I start to feel really uncomfortable by 3/4 of the way through the first video. Now, I'm someone who's very susceptible to NLP in sales, so I'm very mindful of it. I know a lot of people say, I don't want to use NLP in my sales, but if you are doing this process of pushing people through and dialing up their fear and dialing down their empowerment and then coming in and being the savior with your product, you're using NLP for sales. You might not be consciously doing it, but you're disempowering people through that sales process. For me, the more I empower people through the sales process, the more lifelong loyal fans I have. And actually, the more I show up fully in my sales process, the more I feel like it's really aligned for me and the better the results are becoming for me in each and every launch that I do. So have a think about the ways that you can empower people through that sales process and really support them. Now, if this is the kind of podcast episode that gets you fired up and you're looking for some more support in this, I highly recommend that you come and check out the Lady Posse Library. This is where I keep my free training and resources, mostly focused on sales and marketing and mostly focused on really aligning yourself to these feminine strategies in practical ways. So come on over and check it out. You can find the link at the show notes at tashcorbin.com/148. And of course, if you've had any ahas or you've got any questions about this podcast episode, come on over to the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group and share using hashtag podcast aha, and let me know you've been listening to episode number 148 and these are the ahas that are happening for you, or these are the questions that you have. We continue the conversation in the group, and I'm here to support and encourage you as you move forward in your business. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business podcast. If you have any questions or comments, as I said, come and share them in the group. Until next time, I've been Tash Corbin. You've been a fabulous listener, and I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now.